Hello, I'm Ellen, your librarian, and today we are going to be discussing the movies that I watched in January and February of 2025. This is going to be a short video because I don't exactly have a whole lot of time right now. So I think for this year, I'm going to be skipping the statistics until the very end of the year. I always found myself spending so much time with the statistics, and as much as I love them, I'm going to save them for the end of the year. So at the start of this year, I have watched 13 movies. So there are 13 movies we are going to be discussing, and then after the movies, I will discuss the TV that I watched, which is not much. But let's just get started, shall we? The first movie that I have to talk about is Back in Action. Back in Action is an action movie, because it clearly says in the title. So in this movie, we have Cameron Diaz, who is coming back after not acting for 10 years, so that was exciting. And we have Jamie Foxx. They're a married couple. They're ex-CIA agents. They had been presumed dead, so they decided to go into hiding because of something that they have and they're trying to keep safe and not have it get into the wrong hands. But it's been like 10 to 15 years since, and then all of a sudden, their CIA life comes back. They've got 2 kids who they're trying to protect and end up get tagged along on the ride. So I felt this movie brought nothing new to the action movie genre. It was pretty much what I was expecting, especially from an action comedy. I typically like this drama pairing of action and comedy. But again, this brought like nothing new to the table. And it was also a bit predictable, but it was fun. There was good chemistry, I think, between Cameron Diaz and Jamie Foxx. But I do also think there were way too many corny lines that kind of took me out of the story. But overall, it was okay. I didn't hate it. And I'm glad to have Cameron Diaz back. I don't think this should have been the movie for her to come back with, but she's back. So I gave this 3.5 stars. Let me put it in its spot. There we go. 3.5. So the next movie I have to talk about is Cleaner. This is another action movie, but more on the thriller side. It's also kind of like very Die Hard-ish. It has a lot of like homages to Die Hard. And it starts Daisy Ridley, who I really like. I think she's making a great action hero star. And in this, she is a window cleaner. And she ends up having to stay late and on her job because she was late for work. But thankfully, she did have to stay late because a terrorist attack starts to happen in the building. And she's literally watching it from the windows and trying to stop it from happening. Or stop it from, getting to the point of killing people. There's also added stakes when her brother is also within the building. But I absolutely love action movies, so I knew going into this I was going to enjoy it, even if it wasn't great. I was still going to have a fun time with it, and I did. But I do wish it had more action, especially because our main girl, since she is a window cleaner, most of the movie she is outside of the building, just trying to get in. But once she finally gets in, sorry for any spoil if that's a spoiler, but the action scenes, they were great when they happened, but I wish there had been more of them. I wish she had gotten into the building sooner. I do think the pacing was really good. It really built up the tension well. And I do think Daisy and Taz, who played, Daisy played our window cleaner and Taz played one of the radicalists in the building, one of the terrorists. I think they both stole the show. They both did excellent jobs in their roles. They played them so well. But if we are comparing this to Die Hard, I think it's a little bit less memorable than Die Hard, but still has a lot of those Die Hard elements. And I liked it. I ultimately gave it 4 stars. The next movie is Companion. I absolutely loved this movie. I feel like the trailer spoiled it anyway, so I think I'm okay with spoiling it. But we have a woman who is a robot. She is AI. And our main male lead, who's played by Jack Quaid, who is phenomenal, he buys this woman AI to essentially be his girlfriend. And him and his friends are all going on a vacation together in this house, and it's going to be her, I think, first time meeting the friends and getting to know them. And something goes wrong. She murders someone. And things just go wild from there. But I ultimately just think I love movies of women killing men. That is my thing now. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful movie. And it took some twists and turns that I wasn't expecting. And it got, oh my God, it just got so good. It's so good from beginning to end. And I don't know what this says about me, but this movie kind of made me fall in love with Jack Quaid, even though he plays a very psychotic human being. But yeah, I love Jack Quaid, and I'm very excited to see his new movie that comes out this month, Novocaine. But like the one thing I wish I knew about this movie is I wish I knew what happened to Teddy. I don't know if anyone who watched the movie remembers who Teddy is, but he was one of like the workers at the end. We don't ever get to see what happens to him, but I hope he still has a job, and I hope he's doing okay. No, this was a wonderful movie. I'm giving it 4.5 stars because I loved it. I loved it so much. Next is Flight Risk. This is a movie that I had not high hopes for, but I had hopes for it. I had hopes. And you know what? Parts of me did enjoy this movie. I don't think it was all bad. But it also was very lackluster. I need to tell what this movie is about before I go into my thoughts. This is about a U.S. Marshal who is transferring an inmate to testify against like the head of a mob or mafia or whatever. He's being brought in as a witness. And we're flying him to the airport. Like, we're flying him from somewhere to another location to, get him to where he needs to go. But it is revealed that the pilot is maybe not who he says he is. He is there to kill that witness. And so now it's like a fight within the air in this plane. Like I said, there were parts of it that I liked. I ultimately think I did enjoy the story. I don't think it was particularly written well, but I liked the overall plot. And I thought the acting was good, especially from Topher Grace. I really like Topher Grace. I think he needs to be in more stuff. Mark Wahlberg creeped me out in this movie. I don't like seeing him without hair. I don't know why. It looked so creepy. I also thought that like the person that our U.S. Marshal was like talking to was gonna be in on it. That like guy who was helping her fly the plane. Like I thought he was gonna be in on it just because of the way he was talking. I didn't like it. But yeah, it's like a generic, predictable plot with like very cringy dialogue, but it still was exciting to watch at times, which is why I'm giving it 3 stars. So not all bad, but it's just like in the middle there. Next we have Heart Eyes. I was very excited for this movie because the director is someone I'm a fan of, Josh Rubin. I really like him, and I think this is the first thing he's directed. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first thing he's directed, and I was very excited for it. However, it's definitely not my kind of genre, but I was doing it for Josh Rubin. But this is a horror romance where we have a killer who is known as Heart Eyes. He always kills couples on Valentine's Day. That is his MO. So if it's Valentine's Day and you're a couple, beware, baby, don't go out. And we are following our 2 main characters who just met that day. They kind of had a meet cute, but then they meet at work, and he's kind of her replacement at the job at work because she didn't do a very good job at her job. I'm saying job a lot and it's bugging me. But he's come in to kind of fix her mistake. And so they meet at a dinner to talk about what they're going to do to fix the situation at work. However, on the way out of the restaurant that they were meeting at, she runs into her ex who is with his new girlfriend. So to make it seem like she's doing well, she pretends to kiss the guy that she is now working with, which then leads Heart Eyes to go after them thinking they are a couple, but they are not. So now this whole night they are fighting for their lives against Heart Eyes. I am not a horror movie girly. I don't like jump scares. They're my least favorite part about horror movies. I can handle gore. The gore in this was good. I liked the gore. Can't handle jump scares, so that kind of happened a few times and I didn't like it. But I did like the romance aspect about this, because by the end of the movie, the two who weren't a couple in the beginning, they become a couple at the end, and it's cute. I did also really appreciate the mixture of cheesy romance tropes and cheesy horror tropes, kind of like blending together. The only thing though is that this movie did feel really long, and it was really predictable as well. I was able to predict at least part of the end. But I don't know, I had a fun time, so I'm giving it 3.5 stars. Actually, that's gonna go in front of Back in Action. It's gonna go in front. There we go. All right, the next movie we're talking about is The Gorge. I enjoy Miles Teller. I also really love Anya Taylor-Joy. And we've got another, like, oh, I don't know if I want to categorize this as horror. Maybe like action. It's an action romance. Kind of like Back in Action, but this one was better. And it has some like horror elements to it. They're posted at this, I guess it is a gorge. It's just like a chasm that is covered with fog. They can't really see what's down there, but they hear monsters down there. So they're like, oh, and they're placed there, Miles by the military, Anya by I'm not sure who, but they're placed there to essentially protect it and make sure nothing comes out of it. But of course, they don't actually know what's down there. Don't know anything. But they end up like forming an attachment with each other and a romance with each other from across the gorge, until one day they get sent into the gorge by accident. And now they're fighting their way out of the gorge to get back up and get out of there, because it's quite scary down there. And yes, I loved this movie. And again, I'm not into horror movies, but add some romance, maybe I'll be into it, since I seem to like Hard Eyes and that had some romance mixed in with the horror. I like The Gorge. This has got a little bit of horror mixed with some romance. But I loved the visuals of the gorge when we were in there, with like all the fog and the different colors to signify like the different sections of the gorge, I guess. And I enjoyed the storyline, but I think we needed more explanation for a lot of different things. I know like by the end we got like some answers, but there was a lot there were also a lot of answers we didn't get. And I feel like I needed more explanation of things. And the score was a bit distracting at times. But overall, I had a fun time. I really liked this. I'm giving it 4 stars, and I liked it more than Cleaner. All right, next we have Paddington in Peru. This is the 3rd in the Paddington series. I really loved Paddington 1 and 2. This one kind of fell flat for me, but in this one, Paddington the bear goes to Peru with his human family to figure out what happened to Aunt Lucy, because Aunt Lucy has gone missing within the rainforest. I don't think it's a rainforest. Oh no, I think it is a rainforest. Has gone missing in the rainforest. And it's just trying to find her. And, you know, there's like this whole journey and treasure hunting thing that kind of starts happening. And it was fun at times, but there was also a lot I didn't really like about it. I do also want to like preface this by saying I don't remember a lot of the first and second movie. I probably should have rewatched those before watching this one, because I really didn't remember a lot of what happens in those movies, so I was a little bit confused from time to time in this one. But this did feel generic and predictable, but I'm glad it still had that Paddington charm that I love. But I don't think it had as much to save the storyline. I will say my least favorite part was when Olivia Colman started singing. We didn't need a song in that moment, especially when like that was the only song in the whole movie. It just felt so out of place and just came out of nowhere. And I hated the whole song portion of the movie. So I'm giving this 3 stars, but I liked it more than Flight Risk. All right, next we have One of Them Days. This is a buddy comedy with Keke Palmer and SZA. And they have one day to get the money they need to pay their rent, because they thought they had paid their rent, but apparently the person that was given the money to pay the rent didn't actually give that money to the landlord. So now they're running around all of Los Angeles to try and get the $1,000 that they need for rent. While also Keke Palmer's trying to prepare herself and get ready for this interview that she has for a corporate company that will be huge for them so they can actually move out of that place and maybe get a better place to live. And of course, as buddy comedies go, there's going to be like really funny moments that happen and outlandish things that happen. And then there's going to be some conflict and then resolution, you know, like a typical story. And I loved it. Keke and SZA had really great chemistry, and they were really fun characters and just worked so well together. The story did feel like it was never ending, like it just felt like it kept going and going, but I really had a fun time with this. I don't have much else to say. I liked it a lot. I am giving it 4 stars, but it's towards the top there. All right, next we have Love Hurts. I have so much to say about this movie. So I was so excited for this movie. We've got Key as our action hero lead, and it just flopped. I'm so upset. So Key's character used to be a part of this like mafia mob that's run by his brother, but he got out of it and is now a realtor and is very positive and happy. And then all of a sudden, that life comes back to him and he has to try and just, you know, prevent what he was trying to prevent when he left. Again, I have so many things to say, but I'm running out of battery, so give me a second. I wrote a very long review of this movie, so I'm just going to read what I wrote. So I was so excited for this, and it was such a huge letdown. I don't even know where to begin, but apparently I do. There was no chemistry between any of the characters. The script was seriously lacking. The ADR was so obvious and not done well. What was the tone of this movie? It kept going back and forth between being fun and campy and then serious as well, and it didn't work together. The fight choreo was supposed to be my favorite part because I love fight choreography, but it was not shot well. And I could easily tell when they filmed it slow and sped it up in editing. The plot didn't make a lot of sense. I absolutely hated all of the characters' narrations of what was going on. It just didn't feel like it belonged in a movie like this. The movie is also under 90 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. This had elements to be a good movie, but it was executed so messily. I love Key and I want him to do well leading in an action movie, but this wasn't the movie for that. Give Key better movies. I did like the Drew Scott cameo though. I loved Drew Scott playing a realtor. It was perfect. The perfect choice for that role. But yeah, ultimately this movie flopped for me. I didn't like it. I've given it 2 stars. I'm upset about it and I don't want to talk about it. Let's move on to the next movie, which is La Villa Dolce. So we're following a man and his daughter. His daughter has moved to Italy, bought a very rundown house for €1. It's like this thing that this town is doing in Italy to try to get more young people to move there. They sell a house for €1, they fix it up, and then they can like live there. His daughter has done this, is buying a house in Italy, and he then flies to Italy to try and stop her from doing this. But ultimately he can't, so then he stays and he helps her rebuild, and they kind of start creating this life in the town, and they're like becoming friends with the people that are there, and it's really sweet. Like, this movie is just what I want my life to be, cozy and fun. It also is a rom-com that's like so cute. Both the dad and the daughter find romance, and it's great. But I genuinely loved this, even though there wasn't much of a plot going on in this movie. It was just a lot of like day-by-day stuff that they do. I also did really like the father-daughter dynamic of the movie, and also I will say this every time any movie takes place in Italy. I love Italy. I think Italy is such a stunning place, and oh, that made this movie so beautiful to watch. I was just like, oh, look at Italy. I need to learn Italian so I can maybe move to Italy. That is what I should do. I've given this movie 3.5 stars. I liked it a lot. Okay, so next I have The Last Showgirl. This, I believe, was the very first movie that I watched this year, and it was okay. We are following Pamela Anderson's character. She is a showgirl in Vegas, and the show that she has been a part of for 40 years is closing. And it's her trying to find her purpose in life, because she always was just like this show, this show, this show was like her entire life. And now that that's gone, she doesn't know what she wants. But I loved the acting and I loved the visuals in this movie, but that is about it. Everything else just felt like very boring and mediocre. I think the thing I hated the most about this movie was like a lot of these in between scenes shots. Like there were a lot of, like, I don't even know if I want to call them montages, but like montages in between scenes of Pamela Anderson just walking around Vegas. And they felt so pointless. They felt so pointless. And it kept breaking the through line of the story. It kept like breaking that momentum of getting the story moving and going. This movie is also under 90 minutes, but felt like 2 hours. So like the pacing was just so off. I love Jamie Lee Curtis though. This was definitely like, whoever casted Jamie Lee Curtis in this role, give them a raise, because this was Jamie Lee Curtis's role. She did great. But ultimately, I gave it 3 stars. So just kind of mid. The next movie I have to talk about is Valiant One. I went into this not really expecting it to be good. And it was okay. So this is about, the war between North Korea, South Korea. And we're following U.S. military on the South Korean side. They are given a mission, but then their plane crashes on the North Korean side, and they have to try and escape. And things get very tense and scary. But like, listen, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. It was a very mid movie. It felt like a movie that maybe didn't need to go to the theaters and was like a straight to streaming kind of movie. I think the dialogue and the writing was probably the worst part of this movie. Like the dialogue was just, I don't know how to explain it. It was just so bad. I also don't think the acting was very good, but again, if you're giving like, I hate to call them mid actors, but they are kind of like mid actors. They're not, at that quality yet. But if you're giving them a bad script, it's obviously not going to be done well. I also just can't see Lana playing the role that she was playing. Like I couldn't see it. It's not her role at all. Also, the helicopter crash scene was done so bad. It was like a college kid made that scene. But with that being said, there were a few good moments with some tense action that kept me engaged. But ultimately, I think this is just a forgettable movie. Like, I don't think I'm going to remember this in a couple of months. It is 3 stars. And then lastly, I have You're Cordially Invited. This is starring Reese Witherspoon, Will Ferrell in a rom-com that I was hoping to love more than I actually did. So we have Reese Witherspoon's sister who is getting married, and then we have Will Ferrell's daughter who is getting married. And by accident, both of their weddings are booked on the same weekend at this resort, which can only host 1 wedding at a time. So they end up trying to compromise and figure out how to do 2 weddings at the same time, and tensions flare. There's fights, there's a lot of antics that go on, and of course, obviously, our 2 main people are going to end up falling in love, because that's just how rom-coms go. But it was kind of a letdown. It was a lot of things that were over the top, and I get it. Rom-coms are known for like doing unrealistic things that happen. But this just felt too unrealistic and too over the top, to a point where I was just like, no, thank you. This is, eh. Also, everything about this movie was predictable. I could predict everything that was going to happen in this movie. I still had like a fun time here and there, but it felt average. So it is a 3 star. And this is the order of the movies that I watched, from my least favorite to my favorite. And that is it for movies. Let's move on to TV shows. Now, I don't have a whole lot of TV shows to talk about. I only have 5 to talk about. First one that we're going to talk about is Ghost Files Alone. I do have Watcher TV, so I can watch their stuff. And this one I was really interested in because I love their ghost paranormal shows. This one I felt was interesting. It was also only 3 episodes, so I knew it was going to go quickly. But it's just Ryan Bergara all alone in a haunted house, and what happens to him within I think it was like 24 or 48 hours alone in a haunted house. It was okay. I think I like it better when Shane is there. No offense to Ryan. But I kind of need the believer and the skeptic's point of view. I need both. I need them to balance each other out. But I did like it. It was okay. Next I have Taskmaster New Zealand Season 1. I have found pretty much all of the Taskmaster episodes online, and I'm very excited about it because I've constantly been watching clips online and I just want to watch full episodes, and now I have, and I will be. I've started with New Zealand because Paul, I think, is my favorite of the assistants. But this is a show that they had an American run. They had like one season in America, but it flopped. And I think the main reason is because of marketing. They did not market the show because I did not know about it. I wish I had because I would have been watching it. I love Taskmaster. Basically, we have someone who is a taskmaster and he gives out tasks to 5 comedians. And throughout 10 episodes, they have to do these tasks to the best of their ability. And the taskmaster gets to decide who did the task the best. Sometimes it's not just the taskmaster deciding, it's just like, oh, this person did it within the best time, and like then this person did the second best time, you know, until eventually by the end we have a winner. And the taskmaster has an assistant. For the New Zealand version, it's Paul, who, he's my favorite because he's the one who looks more like a kicked puppy. That sounds awful, but it's so cute and endearing, and I honestly genuinely have a crush on Paul. And I just think these comedians are so funny, these tasks are so ridiculous and outlandish, and it's complete and utter entertainment for me, and I love it. Season 1 I'm putting under really like. I will say I have already finished season 2, but that is going to be for March. Okay, then I have Puppet History Season 5, another Watcher television show. I really like Puppet History. It's this puppet who does a puppet show telling you about something that happened in history. And there's like 2 people that are listening and watching the puppet show, and they get to guess what's going to happen next. And then whoever gets the most points at the end wins, and it's usually never Ryan Bergara, which is kind of like the bit of the show. I did hear season 7 is now officially out, so I need to get on season 6 and season 7. But I just really enjoy learning about history in this fun way. I do think season 5 went a little outlandish on the lore of this puppet. I don't think the lore is really needed. We're mainly there, at least for me, I think. I'm mainly there just for the history lessons. But it's a like for me. Then we have Exo Kitty Season 2. God, I've been waiting so long for this show. I feel like nowadays, like, it takes over a year for a show to be made, and the show is usually only 8 or 10 episodes. I don't understand it, because we used to get a season every single year, and they'd be like 20 to 30 episodes back in the day. What happened? It's maddening and upsetting, but I really like Exo Kitty. Season 2, we have our same girl, Kitty. Oh my god, her name is in the title. Ellen. We have Kitty going back to school in South Korea, and more hijinks happen, and I need Kitty and Minho, I think his name is. I need them to be endgame. I need them to be endgame. That is all I'll say about it, but it's a really like. I really like Exo Kitty, and I'm dying for a 3rd season. Please don't make me wait another year and a half, please. And then the last TV show I have to talk about is Whiskey on the Rocks. This is an interesting show. I don't even know how to explain this, but this is about a true story about a Russian submarine that accidentally crashed onto Sweden, and it almost caused World War III. And it's just like a bunch of like political debates and political discussions between different countries. Ronald Reagan gets into play and is like, do y'all need help? I can send soldiers over there. I got you. Yeah, and then you've got like the Russian president. You've got the Sweden president, who was amazing. Oh my god. He was great dealing with the tension and trying to like subdue it and be like, okay, we're gonna figure it out, especially because this submarine ended up having like nuclear weapons on board, and so they were like, are they here to attack us? And the people and like the Russians on the submarine are just trying to be like, we're stuck, but we gotta get out because we're not supposed to be here. We took a wrong turn. Yeah, so it's a crazy time. A lot of like miscommunication goes on. and it's a very tense situation, and it had its like funny moments in this show. Like I think this show is meant to be a comedy, but ultimately it was just okay. I don't know. I liked it, but if there was like a second season, I don't think I'd watch it. I don't even know what they would do with a second season. So there you have it. Those are my TV shows and my movies that I watched in the first part of this year, these first 2 months. And I did the same for my books, which I will link that video down below so you can check that out. And that is it. I will see you guys later with more videos. Bye.